Hello, this is Module 2, Part 2 of the normal distribution module. This includes standard score or z-scores and how to locate percentiles under the normal curve. Recall that in Part 1, we define a standard normal distribution as a special kind of a normal distribution where the mean is always equal to 0 and the standard deviation is 1. And if we are going to standardize a normal distribution, we're going to make use of the formula, which is C equal to X minus mu divided by sigma, where X stands for the raw score, the mu is the population mean, and the sigma is the population standard deviation. But whenever x is between the values given by x sub 1 and x sub 2, in the same manner, the random variable z will fall between the corresponding values. In other words, kung dalawa na yung value ng raw scores natin as represented by x sub 1 and x sub 2, magiging dalawang beses din tayong magko-compute ng value ng z. Ito yung example natin sa Module 1 na kung saan nakikita natin na between two known values. Generally, we can conclude that if the raw score is less than the mu, then the z-score is negative. Otherwise, if it is greater than the mean, then it will be positive. While if the raw score is equal to the mean, then therefore z is equal to 0. So let's take this example. This is very basic. You're going to simply apply substitution here in the given formula. Again, the formula is as simple as z is equal to x minus mu divided by the standard deviation or sigma. Dito, sa mga tanong dito, iisa lang yung values natin ng mean, 65, at isa lang din ang ating standard deviation, 8. Ang nagbabago lang yung raw scores natin. So, here are the solutions. Simpleng subtraction at saka division lang ito. I just would like to emphasize that you have to round off the final answer to the nearest hundredths. Dahil yung z-table na gagamitin natin ay naka-round off ng hanggang 2 decimal places lang. Kung sobra doon, ibig sabihin, wala nang table na mapagkukuhanan. Kapag kulang naman, halimbawa dito, ibig sabihin, ang last digit dito ay 0 din. So, column point 0, 0 lang din naman. The last topic is on how to locate percentiles under the normal curve. So perhaps you are familiar with percentiles because most of the times, board courses, so itong mga courses na may board exams ay laging naka-percentile. And at the same time, sa Psych 102, ang dinidiscuss natin doon ang percentile as a measure of location together with the median, the quartiles, and the decile. So, ang importansya lang ng percentile is that it shows us relative standing. So, you can compare your relative standing or perhaps your class standing with your other classmates by using percentiles. But of course, you have to remember always that if it is in percentile, the scores or the measurements are in an array, meaning the scores are arranged usually from lowest to highest so that you may find your class standing either mas mababa or mas mataas sa naka-indicate na percentile. So let us take the first example. Paul obtained a score of 92 in a unit test in mathematics, and he wanted to know how he fared in comparison with the rest of the class. But the teacher told him that his score is at the 90th percentile. So, draw a normal curve to show Paul's relative standing. So, 92 yung score niya at ang 92 na yon ay makikita sa 90th percentile. So, actually, isa lang yung given dito, itong 90th percentile. So, we all know that a percentile divides a distribution into 100 equal parts. So, we can transform the 90th percentile. So, 90 divided by 100, we obtain 0.9. And 0.9 is greater than 0.5. So, we subtract 0.5. We obtain 0.4. And then, hahanapin natin dun sa napakaraming areas na yon or probabilities sa table. Kung wala eksakto ang 0.4000 doon, hahanapin natin yung pinakamalapit. And in this case, we can find it at 1.28. So, dalawa ulit yung choices mo dito. Positive ba yung 1.28 or negative? Paano mo malalaman kung positive siya or negative? Sabi natin, kapag ang percentile ay mas mataas sa 0.5, kasi nandito ang 0.5 sa gitna eh. Ito yung 0.5 na mas mataas, ito ang 0.5 na mas mababa. So, kung mas mataas siya sa 0.5, natural, nandun siya sa kanan. So, percentile 90 is here. Next example, a score is in the 95th percentile. Where is this score under the normal curve? So again, write 95th percentile into its decimal equivalent and we get 0.95 still greater than 0.5. So subtract 0.5, we obtain 0.45. And in this case, kasi sabi ko kanina, kung wala eksakto doon, hanapin mo yung mas malapit or pinakamalapit sa 0.45. In this particular example, dalawa yung z-scores or z-values na malapit sa 0.45. Ang nasa 1.64 na makikita mo sa column ng z, under z column, row 1.6, column 0.04. You will see there 0.4495 which is 0.0005 less than 0.45. Whereas yung susunod sa kanya at 1.65, the area is at 0.4505 na mas mataas naman ng 0.0005 sa 0.45. So, walang closest kasi dalawa yung value. If this happens, then you simply get the average of the 2C values and that is at 1.645, tsaka natin siya i-round off and the correct answer is 1.65. Pero ang tanong, nasaan siya sa normal curve? So this is 1, this is 2, nasa ng 1.65 nandito. So this is now your 95th percentile. The third example, assuming that a distribution is normal, what is the z-score? So ang tinatanong lang niya, ano yung z-score na equivalent sa mga given na ito in quartiles and deciles. Although the given would be in quartiles and deciles, alam naman natin sa descriptive stat na pwede naman nating hanapan ng percentile equivalent ang mga values na ito. So let's try it. Halimbawa, sa letter A, you have the first quartile. Recall that quartiles divide a distribution into 4 equal parts so that each part is equivalent to 25. Para pag-apat na sila, equivalent na yun sa 100. So, kada parte ay equivalent sa 25. So, 0.25, 25 divided by 100 is 0.25. This time, 0.25 is less than 0.5. So, subtract it from 0.5, we obtain 0.25, and the z closest to that is 0.67. But of course, observe also that 0.25 is less than 0.5. So, kung ang 0.5 ulit ay nasa gitna, nasaan ang 0.25 na mas mababa sa kanya? So, automatically, dito yun makikita sa kaliwa, and that the final answer will take on the negative sign. Negative kasi mas mababa siya sa mean. In the second example, in the second question, in letter B, you are asked to get the z value of the second quartile in the same manner that in letter D, you are asked to get the z value of the fifth decile. So recall that, again, a quartile divide the distribution into 4 equal parts so that Q sub 2 is equivalent to the half or kalahati siya. Now, deciles divide the distribution into 10 equal parts. Ang kalahati ng 10 ay 5. So, ibig sabihin, kalahati din to, which is the same as percentile 50. So, equal yung values nila. 50 divided by 100 is equal to 0.5. 2 divided by 4 is equal to 0.5. And 5 divided by 10 is also equal to 0.5 minus 0.5 is 0. So, the z value is here, 0. So, nasaan na siya? Andun. Q sub 2 is equal to percentile 50, which is equal to the 5th decile. In letter C, you are asked of the third quartile, which is equivalent to the 75th percentile. Bakit 75th? Kagaya ng nasabi kanina, quartiles divide the distribution into 4 equal parts so that every part is equivalent to 25. Eh, tatlo na to. So, tatlong 25, we obtain 75 divided by 100 is 0.75 greater than 0.5, so minus 0.5. The answer is 0.25. Bumalik na tayo dito. But this time, since 0.75 is greater than 0.5, dito naman sa kanan, which is 0.67. So, nasaan ang 0.67 dito? So, andito ang Q sub 3 or third quartile. And finally, letter E, that's the 7th decile. So, 7 divided by 10 is equal to 7.7, which is also the same as 70 divided by 100. Greater than 0.5, so we obtain the difference is equal to 0.2, and we look for this area in the Z distribution table, and the closest is at 0.52. Is it correct that 0.52 is positive? Here, D sub 7. It is positive because 0.7 is greater than 0.5. And finally, here, the last example, what is the C-score such that 80% of the distribution is below this value? So, nag-iisa lang yung given natin, 80%. 80%, that would be the same as 0.8 minus 0.5 is 0.3, closest is 0.84. Tama ba na positive ang 0.84? Obviously, ang sabi dito, 80% of the distribution is below. So, ibig sabihin, nasa ng 80% na yun. Mula dito hanggang dito sa dulo ng kaliwa. So, nandito ang 80%. So, tama yung sagot natin, which is 0.84. And the last part would be the applications. Ito na yung mga worded problems kung saan mai-apply natin yung konsepto ng normal distribution. So, again, simple lang yung formula natin. That's how to standardize a normal distribution. So, dito na, how are we going to transform an x-score to its z-equivalent, and at the same time, how to find for probabilities using the concept of percentiles. So, number 1, IQ scores are normally distributed. The average is 100. That is why, according to the given, mu is equal to 100. Average is the other term for the word mean. And the standard deviation is 16. So, sigma is equal to 16. If Anne was randomly selected, what is the probability of her IQ score is between 100, this is x sub 1, and 120, that is x sub 2. So, since we have two values of the x's, we have z sub 1 and then z sub 2. But for x sub 1, that's 100, the same as the mean. We obtain a z of 0. And for z sub 2, we obtain a z of 1.25. Is this now the correct answer? Siyempre, hindi pa. Kasi ang tanong dito is probability. Kaya dapat ang sagot natin ay probability din. So, paano natin makikita yung probability? By using the table of values for z. Look at row 1.2, column 0.05, and you will see 0.3944, and that is actually the probability that Anne's IQ is between 100 and 120. In the second example, in a mathematics class, the professor told her students that they need a grade in the top 10 of the class to qualify in a scholarship. If the standardization of the test, the average was 70, so mu is equal to 70. The standard deviation was 12, so standard deviation is 12. Ang tanong, what must be the minimum grade needed to qualify if the grades were normally distributed? So, kung gusto mong ma-qualify doon, ano dapat ang grade mo? So, here, ang hahanapin natin ay yung raw score, which is the X. So, para makita natin yung X, kailangan natin ng at least tatlong value doon sa formula natin. Remember na ang formula ng Z natin ay Z, meron tayong X, meron tayong mu, at meron tayong sigma. So, kung may isang nawawala, dapat tatlo doon yung given. So, in this case, pwede nating makuha yung Z by using the given here, which is the top 10 of the class. Meaning to say, dapat nandoon sa 90th percentile. So, gagamitan na natin dito yung previous example natin. So, first we solve for C using the 90th percentile. So, greater than 0.5. The difference is 0.4. Na-solve na to kanina at 1.28. 0.9 is greater than 0.5, kaya ang 1.28 ay positive. So, ito yung formula natin. So, by substitution, sinubstitute lang natin yung value ng Z pagkatapos natin isolve dito. So, ang Z ay nandito. Anyway, pwede mo ring baliktarin kung gusto mo na ang unknown ay nasa kaliwa dapat, pwede rin din naman. So, by cross multiplication, so 12 times 1.28 ay 1 lang naman dito times doon. So, as is. So, by cross multiplication, we obtain 15.36 is equal to x minus 70. And finally, by transposition, although sabi nila hindi daw nag-exist sa math ang transposition, nasanay lang tayo. Ang tamang katawagan doon ay by the APE. Ano yung APE? Addition property of equality, which is done by simply adding both sides of the equation by the additive inverse of negative 70, and that is equal to 70. O, bakit tayo mag-a-add ng additive inverse ng 70? Para mawala sa kanan ang minus 70. So, minus 70 plus 70 is equal to 0, na-cancel na siya. At napunta doon sa kaliwa, which is yun yung ginagawa natin automatically using the so-called transposition. So here, we obtain an x which is 85.36, or that would be the minimum score para mabilang ka sa upper 10% at ma-qualify ka dun sa scholarship. Finally, what is the 33rd percentile of the IQ test scores? If the mean was 100, so given mean was 100, standard deviation was 16. Ang tanong, what is the 33rd percentile? Anong score ang equivalent ng 33rd percentile? So, again, kukunin natin yung 33rd percentile. Here, 33rd percentile is equal to 0.33 less than 0.5. So, we subtract that from 0.5. We obtain 0.1700. And using the table of values for Z, we locate that at 0.44. But then again, 0.33 is less than 0.5, so it should contain the negative sign. Paki-correct ang nasa module. Kasi ang nasa module natin ay positive ang 0.44. So, iba yung sagot. Pakitama na lang. Ito na yung tama. So, we follow the same method in example number 2. We solve for Z. We solve for x using z. Again, we substitute, but this time 44.44 here will assume or will have the negative sign because it is less than 0.5. That's fourth percentile 33. So again, this is cross multiplication, but if you're going to add both sides of the equation by 100, and 7.04 is negative, so instead of adding, we add. And finally, the 33rd percentile is a score equivalent to 92.96 or 93. Again, paki-correct na lang yung nasa module natin. And thank you.